Welcome to the Woosh Wrangling Wild Woos podcast. That's what it's called, right?
Woosh Wrangling Wooers.
Woosh Wrangling Wooers podcast. Never mind. Coming live on Facebook as well, but there's nobody viewing quite yet. And that is okay, because this is going to be the big podcast I said we were going to do. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. I wish I could see the description for my video so I can remember all of it, but I'm not. What are you doing? Okay, so like I said, we are live on Facebook as well. With me is my fiance, the Goof, in the background. My co-podcaster / assistant. So tonight, on the 29th of November, the year 2020, we are going to be talking about many hot topics, you might call them. And like everything on here, I am going to, as I like to say, depoliticize it all. Because Lord knows things these days are over politicized. Now, all these things, excluding the election, I have been requested of me to talk about. The first one we are going to tackle is the one that was not requested of me, and that is the election. I'm going to depoliticize the election. How is that possible? Well, I've been thinking about doing this podcast for quite a few weeks now, and I just wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it. But then tonight I decided I was going to do it. I was going to wing it. I was going to improvise and just see how it turns out. So to depoliticize the election, I'm not going to actually be depoliticizing the election itself, more the aftermath of the election, so to speak. So I'll be depoliticizing leading up to the election, and the aftermath. Mostly the aftermath. And by depoliticizing it, I mean I'm going to talk about its importance in a non-political view, even though the election is all about politics. I'm not going to depoliticize it. When I say depoliticize, I don't mean I'm going to make it totally not about politics. I just mean I'm going to make it to a level to where it's not over politicized, which the election has always been. Because if you look at all the different tactics people use, especially this past election and the one before that and so forth, one of my earlier podcasts, I think, or at least in my Facebook lives, I talked about the election, and I was saying how so many people love using different tactics to try to beat the other person. Whether it's cheating or not cheating, people want to win. A lot of people will cheat. Tom Brady cheated to win, but that's just how the world works sometimes. Sometimes people have to cheat to win. Every single election, there'll always be the people who say, oh, so-and-so cheated. This isn't the first election you've heard people say they cheated. You hear in this election, you hear everyone saying Joe Biden cheated. In the last election, you heard Trump cheated, and so forth. So I feel like the importance of the election has been over-politicized to where you have to like one party or another. It doesn't even matter what they're doing, what they like, or what they're into. The fact that you are into one party has to mean you like all its things, or if you like the other candidate / party, you have to agree with all its things. People forget that there's that middle ground sometimes you have to seek. And when people forget that, you see what goes on in the world, everybody forgets what's going on, and they all turn on each other. They say, oh, you like so-and-so, that must mean you like all these things that I don't like, and so forth. So when you over-politicize the election and all that kind of stuff, then that's what happens. If I was to say, oh, hey, I like Biden, then everyone's going to be like, oh, that must mean, you're anti-this, anti-that, you don't like this, you want our rights taken away. And that's like, well, that's like super politicized to where I may not like what he stands for, but I'm going to say it right now. When President Trump won, you had all the people saying, oh, he's not my president, because they didn't like the guy and they didn't want him to be president. If Joe Biden wins, you are not going to ever hear me say he's not my president. And here's why. Because as long as I'm an American and he's the president of the United States of America, that means he's going to become my president. I may not like anything the guy does, but the office he takes is one that I will respect as an American citizen, because that's my duty to him. I might not respect the guy himself, but you know what? That doesn't change the fact that if Joe Biden wins, I'm no longer an American, which means he's not my president. So people over-politicize things in essence to where they just go all, oh, so-and-so is not my president, and all that. Now to tackle the next hot topic on the agenda today, and that is the discrimination against big dogs and pitbulls. So, a co-worker of mine who recommended all these things actually is the one who said this is one of them that she wants me to go ahead and talk about. So, believe it or not, the discrimination against pit bulls and big dogs is very similar to another topic I'm doing, which I'm going to mix the two together, and that is the old BLM versus BLM. What does that mean? That means Black Lives Matter versus Blue Lives Matter. So a lot of people think those two are complete opposites. People think, oh, if you are for Blue Lives Matter, you must hate Black Lives. If you are for Black Lives, you must hate cops. So I believe it was the mayor of Wichita, when Wichita had a, Black Lives Matter rally or protest, I want to call it. The mayor was, I believe it was the mayor. Don't quote me. You can quote me on this, but I might be wrong. But I believe it was the mayor. She was standing, on the stage or whatever, with a Black Lives Matter shirt. Now, guess who was standing right beside her? Can you guys guess? Do you want to try to guess?
Nope.
No? The person who was standing right beside the mayor, who had a Black Lives Matter shirt on, was the chief of police of the Wichita Police Department. Now, you might be wondering, now why are they standing by each other if they must be enemies? If she believes this, then she can't stand with this guy. Well, here's why. They didn't let the media and the over-politicization control what they thought of each other. Them standing by each other was perfect example of what happens when you take politics out of things. When you take the politics of Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter being opposites, then that's what you get. You get a mayor of a city, a great city like Wichita, who believes Black Lives Matter, uniting with the Wichita Police Department. That's what happens. Look how great Wichita is. You got a country full of Black Lives Matter people burning down cities and looting and all this different stuff. A lot of them not staying 6 feet apart, mind you, also, killing cops. All around the world, country, cops, killing people. And then you got over here in Wichita, you got people who are not going to listen to the media, not going to listen to the over-politicization of everything by saying, oh, politics and the media says if I have a Black Lives Matter shirt, I can't stand next to the guy with a thin blue line flag hat or whatever. You know what I mean? That's kind of ridiculous in my opinion. So Wichita was a good showing that, hey, when you take politics out of it, when you take the media out of it, you will see the unification of both. So what is the difference between Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter? Here's one of the big differences I've recognized and noticed. Black Lives Matter is solely on Black lives that people feel are being discriminated against. Black Lives Matter cares about all Black people being discriminated against except for one type of Black people. You know what type of Black people that is? Well, that is the Black lives on the quote-unquote, according to the politicians, the other side, the other team. Blue Lives Matter. I was working at UPS one day, and I had my thin blue line mask on, and the coworker said, "What are you wearing?" And I said, "Well, my mask." He said, "You believe in Blue Lives Matter?" I said, "Well, yes, I do." He's like, "So does that mean you don't believe Black Lives Matter?" And I said, "Why does there got to be a difference? Have you never seen a black cop before? Why don't you see all the Black Lives Matter people uniting when the black cop gets killed? You know? Why is the black guy wearing a badge have to matter less than the black guy not wearing a badge? Because black cops, they're being discriminated against. Why? Because they're cops. Ain't Black Lives Matter supposed to stand up for black people being discriminated against? If so, they'd be standing up for the black cops. See, Blue Lives Matter is diverse. Blue Lives Matter means if you're black, if you're yellow, if you're pink, if you're red, if you're white, if you're brown, if you're orange, it don't matter. Your life matters. Black Lives Matter is, oh, if you're black and not a cop, then you matter. Otherwise, no, you don't matter. Now, you might disagree with that. But you show me where the Black Lives Matter people would riot and everything when a black cop gets shot. Then we can start talking. And that's the whole thing about it is. When you put the politics of if you're one side, you can't be the other side, then you get the Black Lives Matter. That's why people don't like Black Lives Matter. That's why people don't like Blue Lives Matter. It's because of politics and media says you can't be one and like the other. When you give rid of all the politics media, then you would have people standing up for black cops, black citizens, black immigrants, black everything, white everything. If there was no media, if there was no over-politicization of it all, there wouldn't really be a need for Black Lives Matter in the sense of how it is. Sure, there's always discrimination against blacks. There's always that. There always will be. I'm not saying, oh, there's not. I'm not saying there ain't cops out there who are like that. There definitely are. But when you let the media and over-politicization of things make things to where you have to be against one guy because you're on the other side, well then, yeah, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have everyone fighting each other and shooting each other. And guess who gets the views from that? The media. Because the media lives off of drama, let me tell you. They're like teenage kids. They breathe for drama. They live for drama. They will cause drama just to cause drama. And that's just how the world is these days. It's over-politicized. So yeah, they're going to do that for the views. You may not think they'll do it for the views, but they'll do it for the views. Now, you might be wondering, when is this guy going to get to the pitbulls and the big dogs? Well, here it is. Pitbulls and big dogs. Any dog is, in a sense, dangerous. Now, when you let the over-politicization of things, like what is going on, say, oh, pit bulls are bad, they're dangerous because this or that or this, You ever hear the phrase, there are no bad dogs, just bad owners? I was watching this video where this pit bull, bit this guy's face. bit his owner's face or whatever. And, everyone in comments was saying, oh, my dog would never do that. He must have been doing something wrong, And I put a comment, I'm like, you guys know, this dude who just got his face bit by a pit bull was probably last week commenting on a similar video saying the exact same thing you guys were saying my dog would never do that. That owner must have been doing something wrong. And 1 week later, it's happening to him. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is this. Pit bulls are easy to target. Big dogs are easy to target. It's easier to discriminate against bigger dogs because you're more likely to have people who are just afraid of bigger animals, like big dogs, than they are against smaller dogs. So that's easy. It's easy to feed off of that, fear. So the people who politicize things will say, oh, all big dogs are bad. Pit bulls are bad. We have to ban them. We have to get rid of them because they live off of drama. They can't let nothing in the world be without drama, without being over-politicized, because they just have to corrupt everything. So just like police, if there's one pit bull that gets raised bad, if a pit bull gets raised bad, the dog's going to do bad things. Then everyone's like, oh, that pit bull's bad, that mean all pit bulls are bad. If there's one cop, 2 cops, 10 cops, out of all the cops in the country who do things that are bad, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to say all cops are bad. All cops must be killed. All cops must be taken out. Same thing with pit bulls. If 10 pit bulls are bad, do bad things, because the owners, then that's all you're going to hear about. You're not going to hear about all the other great stories about all the other pit bulls. Same thing with police. If a police department has a few bad cops, well, guess what that means? Every single police department's got to be defunded. Every single police department is bad. It's the same old thing, guys. Discrimination against things because of a few. That's how it goes. That's how it is for the dogs, the big dogs, pit bulls, cops, even black people. You see, black people, like, sure, you hear, oh, this many black people did drugs. That must mean all black people must do drugs. They all must be, arrested and everything. It's the whole discrimination against both sides. I ain't saying there's discrimination on just one side. There's good discrimination against black people, white people, especially white people. Have you guys heard that funny thing called white privilege? I never really got that. In my opinion, I think that's one of the most racist things ever. To say, oh, you're white, you wouldn't understand. You're judging someone by their color. You think they didn't, you think, oh, you're white, you never had her. When you say, oh, you're white, you never had to have your skin color, affect you. Well, that's what's happening to them right now. This white privilege thing, that's what's going on. You're having white people being hated on because people think they have white privilege. You kind of, you're in white privilege by discriminating against whites because of white. Saying, oh, this white guy's never had to have problems because of his skin. Let's go hate on him because of his color of his skin. Well, in that instance, you are immediately ending that white privilege or whatever thing that's, again, I totally believe it's racist to think that, same thing goes with religions, People think, oh, you're part of this religion, that must mean you believe this, or you must believe that. The media says this, the media says that. The media only tells you what it wants you to hear, the things that will make you people divided the most. Media never tells you all the good stuff, only the bad stuff. Because nobody cares to hear the good stuff. Because that doesn't get them anywhere. That doesn't give them any drama. That doesn't make them feel better about themselves. If you always only heard about the stories where people did all this good, then everyone would be like, well, I'm just sitting around watching the media, watching the news, watching, all this stuff. Maybe I should go do stuff. Well, they don't want you doing that, so they'll tell you all the bad stuff. So then you're like, oh man, I'm glad I'm not like that white guy, who's racist. I'm glad I'm not like that black guy who's doing drugs. I'm glad I'm not like that cop who's killing people unarmed. It's how it goes. It's what they want to do. So, what is the difference between Black Lives Matter versus Blue Lives Matter? When you depoliticize it like I just did, when you get the media and politics out of the way, nothing. Absolutely nothing. There wouldn't be a need for either of those if they just stuck together, stood side by side, like the mayor of Wichita and the police chief did. But that's not how it goes. It ain't. People just don't like standing next to each other, even if it is 6 feet apart. They're like, no, I'd rather keep hating this guy. Because when I stop hating this guy, my life's going to feel empty. And I'm afraid of that. I don't care if this guy needs to be hated or not. Because deep down inside, everybody knows that the hate they have is wrong. It's misplaced. But they don't know what to do with it. It's much easier to hate someone than it is to love them. And that's why people hate so easily, because they're lazy. They settle for the least. They settle for what's the most easiest, and that's hating. It's much easier to hate black people because they've done stuff wrong. It's much easier to hate cops because stuff other cops have done. It's much easier to just hate on pitbulls and big dogs because, oh, you've heard that, they've done bad stuff. They've done wrong things. It goes all those ways. Now, moving on to the next hot topic, and that is the whole marijuana and medical marijuana. So I didn't know there's a difference. So I'm not going to do a whole lot on this, beside the fact, because I don't really know a whole lot. I didn't really study it. One thing I will say is what I hear people's arguments are is if it doesn't cause anyone harm, it shouldn't be a crime. Have you guys ever heard that? I know I've heard that. For the argument of marijuana. It's like, oh, what I do with marijuana is just between me and marijuana. If it doesn't hurt anyone, it's not a crime. Guess what? If Jim over here texts while driving on the way to the car, on the way to work, in his car while driving, and never gets in an accident, guess what? He's not hurting anybody. Should he be pulled over? Should he be stopped? Are you guys saying if it doesn't hurt anyone, then you should be good to do it? If Jim texts and drives, but never crashes, does that mean he should be allowed to? Should he be allowed to just text and drive? Should we start doing that? If people who own guns never commit a crime, should they be allowed to keep doing that? You have all these people, double standards. This whole double standard thing, I tell you. It always goes back to the over-politicized double standard. You have people who are just so double standard, it's ridiculous. I'm not going to get into the politics of that because it's over-politicized. My personal opinion is the right is far more double standard than the left. And here's why. I'm just going to do a little side thing. Because I made a comment on this, or post about this the other day. And here's the reason I think the right is more double standard than the left. Because you hear the right always calling the left double standard. You always hear them calling them out. You always hear them saying all this different stuff. And they do a lot of the same stuff. It goes back to my mask debate podcast. You hear the left calling, the people who don't wear masks names, and the right call them names. But guess what? You never hear the left calling the right double standards. They never say, oh, you're double standard or whatever, We're perfect. The right will be like, oh, you guys are double standard, you do all this, You should be more like us. Well, you guys are way more double standards than left. I'm just saying that right now. So to the marijuana thing, my personal opinion on it is, if, like I said, I didn't do a whole lot of research. If medical marijuana really does help people, then we should do it. I know the healthcare system in this country is a joke. So I wouldn't be surprised if healthcare marijuana or medical marijuana, whatever it's called, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually helps people and they don't want to legalize it, because the legal system and healthcare system in this country is a joke. So I feel like, for as bad as they're fighting against it, I have a feeling it's probably a good thing. Medical marijuana is probably a good thing, and that's why they're fighting against it, because how much of a joke it all is. That's my personal opinion on it. Marijuana itself, if you want to go weed up, as they say, and go, drive under the influence and drive in the ditch and, kick the bucket, then hey, that's between you and the ditch and the man upstairs, That's one less weeder, driving around, I guess. That's what I got to say about that. I feel like there's another thing. So there's discrimination, the BLM versus BLM, and why there shouldn't be a VS, but plus. The marijuana thing, adoption. That's the other thing. It goes to the whole healthcare. Healthcare. Legal system. It's much more, adoptions are super expensive. I could get into the whole debate of, that, abortion versus adoption debate. You know what I mean? The fact is, debate is sad. So, what I feel like is, I will say this. You hear people talking about, they want an abortion, all this different stuff. If the government really cared about ending abortion, guys, and everything, they would make adoptions, the process of that, way more cheaper, way less complicated, and actually made it to where that was actually better. But the legal system, the healthcare system, it's all a joke. They only say end abortion and then don't throw in a good alternative or fix the alternatives because they don't want to. They want to over-politicize it because they know it'll cause the division if they were to say, hey, let's fix the alternatives. Then people would start uniting. But they don't want that. They want that division to keep on going because that's how they make their money. So yeah, my view on adoption is it's super expensive, too expensive. It should be made. You hear people say healthcare, free healthcare and everything, but they don't think of the children. It's kind of my view on it, I guess. What was it? What was another thing I was talking about in there? There's another thing I was saying. That was pretty good. So I did the election.
Marijuana, adoption, discrimination against big dogs, especially pitbulls, and the election, other stuff.
Okay, well, yeah, I did. Well, on that, this one went on for a while, which is good. That's what I was hoping for. I've been.
Why don't you say something special for Thanksgiving? Because you do say.
Oh, it is a Thanksgiving holiday weekend special. So, what I'm thankful for is that, I'm one of the very few humans on the face of the earth who is able to say 2020 has been so far the greatest year of my life. It wasn't the year of my prime. I feel like it was the year I hit my midlife crisis, which is typewriters, but that's okay. I'm past my. I feel like I'm past my prime. I feel like I still got a lot left in me. If the me now could meet the me in my prime back in the day, that'd be pretty something else. There's a lot of people I know now that I'm like, man, if you guys could have seen me in my prime, that would have been something else. I tell you, it would have been. You think I got energy now, boy? If you'd have seen me in my prime, you would have been like, whoa, someone change this thing, change the channel, whatever, you know what I mean? Number one thing I'm thankful for this Thanksgiving weekend is the fact I have the ability to be able to live in America, and I have my faith and my family and my co-podcaster behind me over there. Thankful for the men and women who are fighting overseas and on land over here. Most thankful for, another thing I'm really thankful for, is some of the most, in my opinion, the most underrated, underappreciated people that help our country. In my opinion, the most underappreciated people, they are not the cops, they are not the nurses, they are not the firefighters, they are not the military. Don't get me wrong, all these people are underappreciated. But the most forgotten, underappreciated people out of all these different things, in my opinion, are the dispatchers. The 911 dispatchers. Nobody ever thinks about those guys. I saw this one tag on the back of a guy's car. It said, "We don't call 911," and it had a gun beside it. And I'm like, okay. Does that gun mean you have also a water gun when your house turns on fire? I mean, if your house catches on fire, you go, we can't call 911. We have guns. We're gonna use our water gun and put out this fire ourselves. If you fall down and break your leg, I can't. We don't call 911. We're not getting it. We're gonna use our gun and shoot a flare. We're gonna shoot a flare in the air. That's one thing that gets me. Don't forget, when you call 911, you're not just calling the police. You're calling, you're calling dispatchers. Okay, you're calling people that get you what you need, whether that's the cops, medics, firefighters, whatever. So it always makes me chuckle when I see those. Oh, we don't call 911. We got guns. Oh, okay. When your house catches on fire, I guess you got water guns. If you break something, you got like a little flare gun or whatever. That's all. It always makes me chuckle. I'm like, sure. You're talking about, how you love your guns and everything while also, totally underappreciating this 911 dispatchers. So I was like, wow, good for you. If that's what gets you out of bed every morning, then that's definitely something you should really, sleep in. There's all I'm going to say about that. I think that's it for the night. I don't think there's anything else left to say. I know this dragged on, but you know what? I've been playing with this little cardboard for this whole time. My shoulders and back are really sore because I am sitting awfully awful. So I'm not having good seat back posture, which I could over-politicize. I could say, hey, I could over-politicize. I ought to start over-politicizing things personally myself. Do a whole new sequel to my podcasts. Once I finish this series, do a whole over-politicize things. I'm going to over-politicize things that aren't over-politicized. Like the grass. I'm going to over-politicize the grass. And be like, it's not this series yet, so I don't have to worry about what I'm going to say. Kind of deal. So, yeah. That's it. Any final words from our co-podcaster who's hiding in the back?
Nope.
No. Also, if you guys have any typewriters you want to sell or buy, and you live in the Kansas, Wichita area, go ahead and shoot me a message or comment on this video. What?
So, if anyone has any recommendations for the podcast or Facebook Lives or stuff they'd like to see, definitely comment that.
True. Tell me things you want to hear me talk about. Again, it doesn't have to be just depoliticized things. I'll talk about everything. I will talk about Mike Tyson versus Jones. I don't know who won that one, but, Joe Frazier's better than all of them. That's what I'm going to say.
Kim.
Who's that? Oh, Kim Stewart. Which one's Kim Stewart? All right. Hey, Kim Stewart, you just got in at the end. Unless you want to ask us any questions on the comments, feel free to. I think I'm going to end my YouTube podcast. I'm going to keep the Facebook one going like I normally do. So, YouTube, Boo Strangling Booers, y'all have a good night.